Good evening and welcome to the August 25th, 2011 board meeting of the Prince George's County Board of Education. Before we begin, I would like to ask everyone to turn off any wireless communication devices as they interfere with the microphone and taping of the meeting. Ms. Eubanks, will you please lead the board prayer and pledge of allegiance?
O God, we pray to administer that which is just in all educational policies, being ever mindful of your guidance. Stir us to action with love, wisdom, and understanding. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Thompson, please call the roll. I apologize. Yes. Go.
Good evening. My name is Evangela Matthews, and I'm the senior class president at Dr. Henry A. Wise Junior High School. This year, I am taking AP Statistics, AP English Literature and Composition, AP Biology, along with physics and some business classes. My plans for the future are to attend the University of Maryland College Park and major in biology, specifically neurobiology and physiology. My long-term goal is to become a pediatrician or a cardiologist in Prince George's County. Now, without further ado, I want to welcome you to this year's first Prince George's County Board of Education meeting for the 2011-2012 school year. This evening, the Board of Education will provide a school opening report for the 2011-2012 school year. Under unfinished business, the Board of Education will address the revised board policy for the Code of Conduct. And as a first reader under new business, a new board policy on minority, business, enterprise goals and reporting will be introduced. Please keep checking www.pgcps.org for upcoming board meetings and events. And now let the board meeting begin.
Thank you. And Ms. Thompson, please call the roll.
Mr. Armwood?
Present.
Ms. Boston? Mr. Barrows?
Aye.
Ms. Eubanks?
Aye.
Ms. Higgins?
Present.
Ms. Johnson?
Present.
Ms. Waller?
Present.
Ms. Jackson? Mrs. Beck?
Present.
Mrs. Jacobs?
Colleagues, may I have a motion to adopt the August 25th, 2011 board meeting agenda?
So moved.
Have a second? It has been properly moved and seconded that the August 25th, 2011 board meeting agenda be adopted. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and the August 25th, 2011 board meeting agenda is adopted. Colleagues, may I have a motion to approve the June 20th, 2011 board meeting minutes?
So moved.
It has been properly moved and seconded that the June 20th, 2011 board meeting minutes be approved. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it and the minutes are approved. We will now have a news break entitled Opening of School.
You're watching a Prince George's County Public Schools news break.
What are you looking forward to most this year? How about you, Mom? What are you looking forward to?
Summer break again.
Some parents might have joked about wanting a replay of summer vacation. But for most of them, and especially their 127,000 children returning to Prince George's schools on August 22nd, the general feeling was that it was good to be back.
This is my little girl. She's called Mambo, and she's going to first grade.
First grade?
Yes.
You look very pretty today, honey.
Thank you.
You're welcome. What do you want to do today? What's the biggest thing you want to do?
Learn and meet my new teacher.
That's about it.
Friends.
And you're looking forward to lunch?
Uh-huh.
Are you ready to start school?
Yes.
What do you want to do today? First thing.
The work.
Work. Wow, you're just saying that because Mom's here or because you really mean it?
I really mean it.
At elementary schools like Greenbelt, Oxon Hill, and James H. Harrison in Laurel, the poignancy of the first day of school was played out as parents hugged their children.
She doesn't look thrilled at all.
Kindergartners cried when their parents went away. New book bags were hung on hook racks with care, and everybody looked like Santa as they toted bags filled with everything from hand sanitizer to paper towels. With all that preparation, it's no surprise that test scores have been consistently rising at schools throughout the county. At Harrison, the veteran teachers and the new principal are determined to repeat and even improve upon their school's impressive MSA performance from last year.
Yeah, I've been here for almost 18 years at this school, teaching 5th grade.
I saw you pull up. I was here early. You were unloading your car. You have all your gear with you. Teaching is a lot about doing homework, just like you expect students to do.
Yes, it is. A lot about doing the homework. And if we can stay ahead of them, then, they're going to stay ahead in life.
I've only been here about 2 weeks so far, but through my observation and looking at the data, they did gain 13 percentage points in the reading and 10 percentage points in mathematics. I asked the previous principal about how did they gain those scores, and one thing that she did tell me, and the staff told me as well, is that they really focused on interventions for specific students around how they scored on not only the quarterly assessments, but common assessments as well.
At Oxon Hill Elementary, there is even more good news about the MSA, particularly for the students in special education.
All special ed, comprehensive special ed students were scoring 5% and 7% on the MSA. They have increased to an aggregate of 47.01% for math, and we moved up to 37% for reading. But when you disaggregate that across the grade levels, they're hitting 60, 70, 80% individual children. All children can indeed learn.
For School Superintendent William Height, who spent the day sending off buses and welcoming students, the focus was on successes to date, but also on the wealth of new academic resources and opportunities for children.
Really excited about 4 new schools this year. The middle college on the campus of Prince George's Community College, a new charter school on Andrews Air Force Base, a new charter school in Morningside, and a new charter school in the Laurel area, which is Chesapeake Math and Science. So we're very excited about those new opportunities, and we're also excited about our progress and being able to continue that progress starting on day 1 of the new school year.
Investing in the future, making sure all students are career and college ready, is becoming literally true this school year as Capital One Bank is opening a branch inside Parkdale High School. Working to help a community historically underserved by banks, 10 students have been trained as tellers and will be providing their peers with a chance to both save a little money and learn a lot about financial literacy.
I have seen them grow. I've seen them grow professionally. I've seen them grow speaking with customers. The change has been dramatic. So during the beginning of the summer, working with customer interactions, because we actually had them working in the branches as normal tellers. During the summertime, they learned how to interact with customers and how to offer great customer service that we offer at Capital One Bank. They also learned how to grow professionally.
One thing that we were trained on is treating every customer like nothing's wrong. If something went wrong with the other customer, you can't let it affect your attitude towards the next customer. But I'm a naturally friendly person, but I would definitely say that Capital One has trained me on how to keep it friendly and keep it professional at the same time.
By providing such real-world experiences, great instructors who rely ever more on data analysis to meet individual needs, and an abiding philosophy that all children can learn, school officials are banking on the next generation of Prince Georgians to be good citizens, ideally prepared to compete in the global village, and to develop a lifelong love of learning. However, in the case of one kindergartner, on his very first day of school ever, that kind of joy won't have to be taught.
And who's this? Is this your brother?
Yep.
Is he going to kindergarten too?
No. And look at my backpack.
Wow! Is that a dinosaur?
Yep. It's a Triceratops.
Triceratops? You know a lot already, don't you?
Yep, I also know T-Rex, Dilophosaurus, and the Brachiosaurus and Ankylosaurus.
That's great. Give me 5. All right, buddy. For channels 96 and 38, this is Dave Zarin reporting.
Time for the report of the Vice Chair. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the first meeting of the 2011-2012 school year. Prince George's County Public Schools opened its doors on Monday, August 22nd, welcoming nearly 127,000 students. Board members, Dr. Height, Dr. Coleman Potter, and other staff visited schools across the county to welcome our students back to a new and exciting year. I would like to thank all of the departments for working hard throughout the summer to prepare for the opening of school. Our colleagues, Ms. Jacobs, Ms. Boston, and Student Board Member Faith Jackson will not be in attendance this evening. Ms. Boston is on a trip to Africa. Board Member Faith Jackson is attending an oratorical competition in Boston. And Ms. Jacobs, who is not here today because she had her first child, David Micah Jacobs, would like to send her thanks to everyone for the prayers and well wishes on the birth of her son. She looks forward to seeing everyone soon. We experienced a historic magnitude earthquake Tuesday afternoon. Some of our schools sustained damage as a result of this earthquake. Staff are continuing to work to assess the structure of the remaining closed buildings so that the affected schools can reopen. On behalf of the board, we would like to underscore how proud we are of our students and staff for the exemplary way they handled this crisis and behaved during the earthquake and after. We are in the midst of the hurricane season. With reports of Hurricane Irene heading up the East Coast, you can go to the county's website to view tips on emergency preparedness. In partnership with Prince George's County Community College, the school system opened the Academy of Health Sciences at PGCC this summer. The Academy is the first middle college high school in the state of Maryland. The first class consists of 100 ninth graders who were selected based on their teachers' recommendations and interest in the field of health sciences. A class will be added each school year until full enrollment of approximately 400 students is achieved. Students participating in the academy will graduate with a high school diploma as well as an associate's degree. This summer, 10 Prince George's County School students from Parkdale High School participated in the Capital One student banking program in Newark, New Jersey, to prepare to operate the student-run bank in their school. Students were selected for the program through a competitive essay and interview process. The bank at Parkdale is one of 4 student-run banks in the nation and will provide an opportunity for students to learn about the key concepts of financial markets and institutions, as well as expand their understanding of finance beyond their personal budgets. Upcoming events: September 8th, 11 o'clock a.m., System Oversight Meeting on Information Systems. September 8th, 6 o'clock p.m., CIP Public Hearing. September 22nd, 7:05, Board Meeting. All persons interested in speaking must register with the board office 2.5 hours prior to the meeting by calling 301-952-6115. Moments of silence. Patrick Boner, 12th grade student at Parkdale High School, and Dr. John Murphy, former school superintendent, Prince George's County Public Schools. Thank you for keeping these families in your thoughts and prayers. I will now yield the floor to Dr. Height for the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good evening, board members. Welcome back to the 2011-2012 school year. Unfortunately, students were only in classrooms for a little more than a day when an earthquake hit the East Coast. The safety of our students, teachers, and staff is our #1 priority, and we made a decision to close schools on Wednesday based on this premise. Our maintenance crews and engineers were sent out to inspect the damages and to determine if buildings were safe. As of this evening, we do have 6 remaining schools that are currently being assessed. We will make an announcement later this evening on whether or not those schools will reopen tomorrow. Those schools are Beltsville Academy, Bradbury Heights, Forestville Military Academy, Porttown Elementary, Potomac High School, and Suitland Elementary School. We will continue to work with structural engineers to inspect all of our buildings, and I wish to express an appreciation to the county government who supplied individuals from the Department of Environmental Resources who are helping us inspect and clear buildings. Our goal is to work quickly on these impacted sites so that school may resume for all students as quickly as possible. As a reminder, please check our website often for the latest status on school closings. I'd also like to take this opportunity to commend once again the tremendous efforts of our staff, our students, our teachers, our administrators for the work that they did immediately following the earthquake. Students were evacuated in an orderly fashion, and they were dismissed from all 200 of our schools while they were still in evacuation mode. And all students returned home safely. So that is a testament, in my opinion, to the tremendous commitment and dedication and professionalism of all staff members in Prince George's County. So I'd like to express my appreciation for the work that was done. As you know, we are bracing for a Hurricane Irene. It is still uncertain where the storm will make the most impact. As a precaution, our staff members have already begun preparing by cleaning gutters and storm drains and securing playground equipment. As we continue to take proactive actions to ensure the safety of our students and facilities, we ask parents and guardians to monitor the situation and visit our website for a list of updates. Over the summer months, instructional staff focused on perfecting skills with principals taking part in a 4-day leadership training session, and nearly 100 new teachers participated in a 3-day professional development session. Some teachers continued working throughout the summer to support students enrolled in summer school, and many of our schools hosted special academic opportunities for students. School sites also house programs for youth hosted by the Maryland National Capital Parks and Planning Commission. And to kick off the start of the school year, we hosted our inaugural back-to-school fair, and to be quite honest, it exceeded our expectations. I want to take this opportunity to thank Ms. Karen Lynch and the work of her department for pulling that together, also the work of Ms. Gladys Whitehead and all of the individuals in curriculum and instruction, Ms. Janice Briscoe, and others who pulled that event together. In spite of the budget challenges we face this past year, I'm very pleased to announce that once again, as students continue to make gains in academic achievement. Over the summer, we received results on the 2011 Maryland School Assessments, MSAs, and found that students are continuing to make gains due to the tireless efforts of our staff, our teachers, and support from our families. While the state remained flat, here in Prince George's County, we had a 4-point gain across the board on our Maryland school assessments. I assure you that our commitment is stronger than ever to ensure that students have what they need to achieve. I'm also excited about the progress we're making in the area of science. Both in 5th grade and 8th grade, we saw gains on the Maryland MSA in Science. We are pleased that these results mirror the steady improvement we have seen across the board. I'm also pleased to announce that we have a new Office of Constituent Services. New initiatives for the school year included establishing the Office of Constituent Service to expedite the resolution of conflicts and concerns, and redesigning the school system's website to make it easier for students, family members, and staff to find key information. Go to www.pgcps.org for information on the Office of Constituent Service, as well as breaking news, professional development opportunities, and school operation status. As we begin a new school year, I encourage parents to get to know your child's teacher and participate in volunteer opportunities at your school. Family and community involvement is critical to our students and their success. I wish for us all to have a wonderful school year. Madam Chair, that concludes my remarks.
Thank you, Dr. Height. We are at 4.0, public comment on agenda items, which will we have one speaker for school opening report. We do not have a legislative update, so we will now go to item 6.1, 2011-2012 school opening report, where we have one registered speaker who will speak for 3 minutes in a public comment forum where the board will listen to comments. You must speak on the topic for which you have been registered. The board will not address the comments. At the sound of the buzzer, you may complete that sentence only and may not relinquish any part of your speaking time to another registered or unregistered individual. You are encouraged to use titles rather than names. Please leave a copy of your statement in the file box located next to the microphone. Your adherence to these guidelines will enable the public comment process to move smoothly. Our registered speaker is Ms. Juanita Miller, Chairperson, NAACP Education Committee, who will speak on the 2011-2012 school opening report. Good evening.
I am Juanita Miller, Chair of the NAACP Education Committee for the Prince George's County branch. The 2010-11 school year ended with a budget slash and many employees being terminated or downgraded. The 2011-12 school year opened with blight as well, i.e. classrooms are without teachers, the foundation of a school system, impending lawsuits, and allegations of age and racial discrimination, as well as discriminatory hiring and promotional practices. This is to apprise you that the NAACP will be working collaboratively with the unions, the County Council of PTAs, the Prince George's Chamber of Commerce Education Committee, and other community organizations to investigate and hopefully resolve the numerous complaints filed with our office. To be specific would take longer than the 3 minutes allotted. However, some of the complaints involve reassignment, replacement of the mentoring teachers, misuse and waste of funds by school system personnel, and harassment of teachers by principals, to name a few. It is our hope that quelling these complaints will minimize the already astronomical cost to the system from a failed real estate venture, Labor Department fines, and current lawsuits, which in total range in millions of dollars of millions of taxpayer dollars. It is our intent to work with the school system to promote equity in the workplace for its employees, and most important, to provide the best services to our stakeholders, the students. This can be accomplished through the school system throughout the school year, beginning with transparent operations by the school board and superintendent, not spoon-fed, feel-good rhetoric, but the truth. I'd like to note that on a recent Parent Talk blog radio broadcast, board member from District 5 stated that Prince George's County Schools was no longer ranked number 24 in the state, but had moved up. When asked by the host of the program the basis of this information and the current ranking, the board member, District 5, stated that he didn't know and that the superintendent told him that we are no longer at the bottom. No hard data to support this claim was provided. An earnest start would be with the board responding to the request for a forensic audit, which would provide a more comprehensive picture of the system's financial operations. Stakeholders would get an understanding of whether funds and expenditures are utilized for more direct services to students or for maintaining programs that have been non-productive with no accountability. I will leave a copy of my letter. I was not able to complete it, but thank you.
Thank you. This concludes public comment on agenda item number 6.1. Mr. Armwood would like to correct that it was District 7. Thank you. Colleagues, I will now yield the floor to Dr. Height for discussion item number 6.1, 2011-2012 school opening report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And this will be brief, and this is a report of our first day of school, and it contains information about our enrollment and some other key information. So as of August 23rd, our enrollment is 125,679 students. That is slightly higher than our projection, and students and families are continuing to register. This, of course, will mean that we would have to subtract any no-shows from this number, but we're also continuing to register students. Over 200 school sites were cleaned and prepared for the new school year, with over $2.1 million in school repairs completed. This year, bus routes were assigned for more than 81,000 students. Additionally, 94% of the 121,413 schedules that were created for students were error-free. Currently, we are scrutinizing each class size in order to mitigate class sizes that are excessive. In certain instances, we anticipate transitioning teachers to alleviate the larger class sizes. In cases in which class sizes are large, we are examining schedules to determine if there are more efficient ways to reduce the class sizes. Teachers and administrators will employ strategies for differentiation and flexible grouping to address student needs. And we encourage parents to support your child's teachers by reinforcing classroom rituals and routines that have been established. With that, Madam Chair, I'll be glad to take any questions.
Ms. Higgins?
Yes, I'm sorry, Dr. Height. Could you tell me the student enrollment number, even though it'll change?
Yes. As of August 23rd, was 125,679.
Thank you.
And we were projected at 125,600 students.
Wow.
Ms. Johnson?
Dr. Height, I think in looking at the schools in District 1, it would appear that that corridor, Beltsville, Hyattsville corridor down 410, that's where the increase is showing up, is it not?
That is one of the areas, Ms. Johnson, and then we have increases in some of the other areas as well. We also have some increases in kindergarten, and so we have more students enrolled as kindergarten as first-time registers than we were anticipating.
Thanks.
Mr. Burrows?
Dr. Height, you might have mentioned this earlier, but just to be clear, I received a lot of emails and phone calls about class sizes. What's the process for balancing, and when will that take place?
Well, we've already begun the process of balancing, Mr. Burrows, and we started on that process actually a couple of days before school started, and we were able to shift some teachers around, but we tend to wait until we have individuals in seats. And a good example was the school you and I were visiting the other day. There was one class with 32 children in one class.
Right.
But then there were two other classes in the building that had 18. So we would also have to balance that way within schools and across schools. So this will mean, in the past, we've had additional staff that we could deploy This year, our budget did not allow for us to keep a pool of teachers, although we have a small amount of money that we're using from Possibility Prep. But we're instead looking to move teachers from smaller class size schools to help offset those at schools with larger class sizes.
And when will this be done?
This is ongoing. So it started last week, it continues this week, and it will probably go for another week or so. We will begin with the lower grades first, so that we are making sure we are addressing particularly the grades where students are learning to read, but then we're also looking at the high schools as well, because those are some fairly significant class sizes, and we've already moved some staff around to alleviate that.
Ms. Waller?
Thank you, Madam Chair. To Dr. Height, the executive staff, to the our school administrators and our support staff, I thank you for all that you've done to get us off to a great start. When school starts, it's like putting the pieces of a giant puzzle together. We have transportation, we have new bus drivers that are trying to learn the routes, we're dealing with food services, class sizes, we have new students that are coming into schools. They don't have a clue where they're supposed to go because they're registering on the first day of school. And then, of course, we have this bugaboo out there, I guess you'd say, about class schedules, and I'm not in the class I'm supposed to be in. However, Dr. Height, this year, as you know, and even last year, our employees were working 4 days a week, and they were off on Friday. And preparing for the school year, were we impacted by not having everyone at school on the Friday before? I believe I think I'm using the right term. The Friday before school started. Do you feel that we needed more time, or the teachers felt like they needed more time? Because I know we had lots of meetings going on, parent meetings, community meetings, professional development meetings, department meetings. We had lots of new equipment coming into the school buildings. We were repaving parking lots and just a lot of things going on. Do you think that how were we impacted by that Friday?
I don't think we were impacted by the Friday at all, Ms. Waller. In fact, we were here the Friday before teachers reported, so people were at work on those days. But if we look at it from the perspective of the hours in the week, everyone still performed a 40-hour week. It was just done over 4 days instead of 5 days. And in situations where we had external agreements to complete work, and one example is the energy performance contract, that work continued. So that wasn't confined inside of the 40 hours because it was based on the contract for the energy performance work. And so a lot of the work took place, and the $2.1 million in school repairs occurred during that period of time. And so we are pleased with what was accomplished, in the fact that right before school started, we had the normal weather-related things. We had pipes to burst, we had air conditions that went out, and were able to repair those before the start of school. So it's just a testament to the tremendous commitment of our staff.
And just to double check, did all of our schools have their principals in place?
Yes, we are still, all of the schools have principals in place, yes. Some of the principals have been selected for promotions, but because we have not named a replacement yet, those individuals began the school year in their buildings. And so all schools started with a principal, yes. You're welcome.
Seeing no other board members buzzed in, thank you, Dr. Height.
Ms. Hathaway-Beck, can I make one more statement, please?
Sure.
And I just want to make another statement about the comments about our data. And our data is not data that's made up. It's not data that's feel good. It's data about the results of our students. And anyone publicly can verify our data by going to MD Report Card all those data are there. It is not from anything that we create. It's from what is created with the Maryland State Department of Education. So just wanted to make sure that the public understands where they could go to also see our data.
Thank you. We are now at the point of item 7.0, consent agenda. We'll yield the floor once again to Dr. Height for an introduction of the consent items 7.1, 7.2, 7.3.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There are 3 items on the consent agenda, and the first is the contract between the Board of Education and O'Malley, Miles, Nyland, and Gilmore, Excel Academy Public Charter School, the renewal of the contract, and the Forbush lease.
Thank you, Dr. Height. Ms. Higgins.
Yes, I would move that we pull the contract between the Board of Education and O'Malley, Miles, Nyland, and Gilmore from the consent agenda. I have an amendment.
Second.
Moved in second. Now it goes to non-consent agenda,
So that
which
would
will
be
be item 9.0.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Item 7.2, Excel Academy Public Charter School renewal of contract. Do I have a, are we taking these separately, or would you prefer to take these, no, wait, well, separately, because I know there's comments on 7.3. Item 7.2, Excel Academy Public Charter School. Do we have a motion?
I move that we accept the renewal of the contract.
Second?
Second.
Properly moved and seconded that the Board of Education approves item 7.2 under the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Thompson, please call the roll.
Mr. Onwood? Aye. Mr. Barrows?
Aye.
Ms. Eubanks? Aye. Ms. Higgins?
Aye.
Ms. Johnson? Ms. Waller?
Aye.
Mrs. Beck?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 7.3, Forbush lease. Is there any comment? No. Okay. Mr. Burrows. 7.3, Forbush lease.
Dr. Height, can you please explain the rationale for moving?
Excuse me, Mr. Burrows. I apologize. You want to have this pulled from the consent agenda to a non-consent agenda discussion?
Yes.
So it will now be under 9.0. So it will be the second item. 7.1 and 7.3 are now under 9.0 because they've been pulled from the consent agenda for discussion. Is that accurate, Ms. Hairston? Thank you.
Yes, Madam Chair, that's correct.
Okay, now we're under 8.0 Budget Consent Agenda Expense Requirements, September 2011. Dr. Height.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And there are 3 items on the budget consent agenda. One is the expenditure requirements, September 2011. The 8.2, FY 2012 appropriation reassignments over $100,000 within a major category. And this is for the period of July 1 through August 8th. And then 8.3, FY 2012 tuition rates. And that information is in your packet, and that just details the tuition rates for students who are county residents or non-county residents, and the multiple categories.
This is also a consent agenda, so are there requests to pull from this consent agenda? Ms. Johnson.
Yes, Madam Chair, I would like to have the pull from the consent agenda regarding, perhaps I'm in the wrong place, about
tuition rates?
never mind. I want to go down to it's already in the unfinished business. That's okay. About governance over fees, et cetera.
Okay.
So I'm good. That's fine. Thank you.
Ms. Waller? No. Mr. Burrows?
Can you please talk about the Forbush lease?
We've already moved that to 9.0.
I mean, so you just, I didn't.
9.0.
I didn't buzz in for anything else but that.
Ms. Higgins?
I move that we accept the budget consent agenda items and approve them.
May I have a second? Second. Properly moved and seconded that the Board of Education approves items 8.1, 8.2, 8.3 under the budget consent agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Thompson, please call the roll.
Mr. Armwood? Aye. Mr. Barrows?
Aye.
Ms. Eubanks?
Aye.
Ms. Higgins?
Aye.
Ms. Johnson?
Aye.
Ms. Waller? Mrs. Beck?
Aye.
Motion carries.
9.0 is now encompassing 7.1, which is Ms. Higgins, contract between Prince George's County Board of Education, O'Malley, Miles, Nyland, and Gilmore, PA.
Yes, I'd like to make an amendment to the contract, but do I have to wait until somebody makes a motion to accept the contract?
You have, when you make an amendment, you must have a second.
But Ms. Higgins is correct. Someone has to first move to accept the contract, to approve the contract, and second, and then she can make her amendment.
Okay, I'll move that we accept the contract.
Moved and seconded. Now we're having discussion.
And then I'd like to make an amendment to the contract. Number M on the, is that right? I'm good?
She can make, she's making a motion to amend, right.
Yes, I can.
Ms. Hairston? Let's have discussion first, Ms. Higgins, before we get into
the discussion would be that following on our conversation with Mr. Lucci about the contract, I would appreciate the opportunity to have in the M section of number 2 that there would be a written bi-monthly report that it would include an update on all the bills that are filed in the legislature impacting the Prince George's County Public Schools. I think it would be valuable to have that.
discussion. No discussion on that. Okay, we're waiting for Ms. Hairston.
There's nothing prohibiting her from making the amendment, the motion to amend.
The motion to amend. You're amending the motion to, we're voting on the motion to amend the contract. Do you have a second?
Yes, Mr. Armwood.
We have a second with Mr. Armwood. Should we call a vote? Point of order.
Can I just ask for this one point of discussion? If I remember correctly, Mr. Lucci agreed verbally to give us the written report every month. What changes or what is the impact of now requiring it in writing?
To the extent that the board requires it to be a term of the contract, failure to meet that term of the contract, essentially a performance standard, the board could then decide to take action for the vendor failing to perform the service in whatever form you would think would be appropriate. So it is a higher standard than simply a verbal agreement to say, yes, I promise you I will do this.
Thank you. I just wanted that clarification, make sure we were not violating anything else. Thank you.
So we're voting on the amendment to the contract prior to voting on the contract. We have a motion, we have a second, call the vote.
Mr. Armwood?
Aye.
Mr. Barrows? Mr. Barrows? Ms. Eubanks?
Aye.
Ms. Higgins?
Aye.
Ms. Johnson? Ms. Waller? Mrs. Beck?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Now we move to approval of the amended contract. Do we have a motion to approve the amended contract?
So moved.
So moved. And a second? Second. We have a motion to move and accept that has been seconded to approve the contract for O'Malley Miles Nyland. Ms. Thompson, please call the roll.
Mr. Armwood?
Aye.
Mr. Barrows?
Aye.
Ms. Eubanks?
Aye.
Ms. Higgins?
Aye.
Ms. Johnson?
Aye.
Ms. Waller?
Aye.
Mrs. Beck?
Aye.
Motion carries.
We're now at the point of item 7.3 that was moved to non-consent. Do we have discussion, Mr. Armwood?
I don't really have much discussion. I sent out a letter from a parent who had some concerns about the process, but the contract is pretty standard, and I have no problems with the contract as it stands.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson.
Just a commentary to the superintendent. One, I don't have any concerns about the contract. I think providing this service for young people, but I will admit to you that seeing this name just very, very recently and then having to research how this delivery of service, if we could make certain that particularly as it relates to services that are not new to the system, that we always have a brief background report, because as I said, I knew the name from Baltimore, but I didn't associate it with PGCPS. So other than that, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Ms. Waller? No? Mr. Burrows?
Thank you, Dr. Hyatt. Can you please talk to I also have a parent who contacted me who lives in District 8, and she mentioned in her letter that the students would not have access to the multipurpose room, the cafeteria, the library, the music room, and the computer lab. Is that accurate?
No, that's not true, Mr. Burrows. They will have access to those areas. And if you recall, this is the combination of Green Valley and Edgar Allan Poe. And because we were combining those programs, we had to move into the larger facility and the what I think is the nicer facility. But they will have access to all of those areas.
And in fact, paragraph number 2 of the lease specifies that.
Okay. Like I said, I got a letter. I just want to openly ask you so that she knows that I have read her letter. And the second concern that she has is that she mentions that tuition is $60,000 a school year, but her son does not receive one-on-one speech and language, occupational or physical therapy services, nor is there a dedicated aide. Can you please speak to that?
Certainly. Forbush is a Type 1 program, Mr. Burrows, so that program is actually done by the Forbush School. It's a private entity. And so we can certainly, and we've already told that particular parent when we had 2 parent meetings with the parents at the school with the Forbush administration, that the programming concerns would have to be actually addressed by the administration, but they have been made aware of her concerns as well.
So will there be a dedicated aide?
It's up to the IEP committee in terms of it's not something that's actually always given because it's a parental request. It's a committee's decision in terms of what's appropriate based on the child's needs.
So the school system is not able to ensure that they get the one-on-one speech and language, occupational, physical therapy, and we're not able to address her concern of having 35 students in the classroom.
So again, Mr. Beers, this is a Type 1 program, which means it's a non-public private placement program. And the program is actually one where she is correct. The school system, we pay tuition, and this entity, Forbush School, actually provides the services. And so she is in contact, as well as the other parents, with the administration because they have a separate principal, a separate program director, IEP committees, and the advantage of having a Type 1 program in the district is that these children don't have to get on a bus to go to Baltimore every day to receive the services. They're able to receive their services here. But this specific programming is something that has to be addressed with that child's IEP committee.
I guess my point is, or my question is, very clearly, we cannot ensure that we cannot ensure that these services that she mentioned actually happen. And it's like a yes or no question. Can we ensure that the school, proceed in the one-on-one direct speech, occupational and physical therapy services, and the dedicated aid?
Absolutely. Based on the IEP's recommendation, the team's recommendation, we actually have an office that monitors non-public placements as well as the IEP and the accommodations that are required. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Further discussion? I do have one question on this one. It seemed to be different criteria for this lease than the charter school leases. I was looking at the Morningside charter school lease, and the arrangements seem to be different.
Yeah, so, each lease is negotiated with the lessee, so there is always a negotiation process. So you're not always going to see the exact same terms and conditions. For instance, in this one, obviously the monthly rental requirement is $5,608.75, and that was based upon a fair market value assessment at that school at $7 per square foot. So depending upon the facility and how staff does the assessment about fair market value and what the assessed rate monthly rent should be, there could be changes, and obviously also based upon the use and access requested for the facility. But we do try to have, as to the extent possible, pretty much conformity in much of the language, but you are going to see some variation based upon the negotiation process with the lessee.
Okay, thank you. So we are now at the point of needing a motion on the floor. Oh, Ms. Johnson.
Dr. Hyde, I think it might be helpful that you provide to the board or either a special ed division the variables with regard to non-public placement, placement in the school system, what the school system is required to do under the IDEA, because we will get emails or letters. Oftentimes, the families do not know where governance begins, ends, or how much there is. But it is imperative that the board member have that guidance so that they can assist in providing the right place for the parent to go to get the information that they do need in order to follow through. But also with respect to Forbush, they have a extensive website that will take you through not only their history, but what do they do and how they are, their governance structure. As I said, I knew of them with regard to Baltimore, but did not realize that we had an entity here in our county. But you have to do that. It is important. Thank you.
Mr. Armwood?
I wanted to reinforce Ms. Johnson's point. When Forbush Academy came up and a parent contacted me, I was not aware of the Forbush Academy being in Edgar Allan Poe. And in fact, the special ed director, I believe it was, pointed out that they had failed to include that on the list of programs. I'm sure that one has been corrected, but are there any others that we're not aware of in our district or in the schools that are not listed in the organizational charts so that we can readily identify them?
No, there are not any others, Mr. Armwood, but we are being aggressive about attempting to move non-public placements into the county, because we want to eliminate the amount of time that students are spending being transported to, in some cases, north of Baltimore for some of these programs. So we're engaged in negotiations with many of our Type 1 programs to open these types of programs within the county. And there are many programs that our students are already accessing, but they're away from, they're outside of this jurisdiction.
Dr. Height, if I could add to that. There's Type 1 and Type 2 programs. The Type 1 program sits completely independently. They just use our space. A Type 2 is actually a partnership. And Dr. Height is correct. We actually put a lot of energy into seeking Type 2 partnerships with organizations like Kennedy Krieger, Children's Guild, and we came very close, but it really has to be the right match. And the difference for the Type 2 is we actually see opportunities for collaboration between the program that's located in the school and the regular school. And Dr. Height is correct. It does save on transportation, but we also think that a Type 2 program located in the district has other benefits so that children who need very, very intense services still have the opportunity to interact with non-disabled peers. Children in a Type 1 do not interact with non-disabled peers, so it's a more restrictive environment. We would prefer to move to a more Type 2, and we think we can lower our overall cost if we move in this direction. So I think over the next year or two, look for us to be searching for those opportunities for that to happen.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, we're looking for a motion.
I move we accept the lease as amended or as presented.
And okay, it's been properly moved and seconded that the Board of Education approves item 7.3, the 4-bush lease. Is hearing no further discussion, Ms. Thompson, call the roll.
Mr. Armwood?
Aye.
Mr. Barrows?
Aye.
Ms. Eubanks?
Aye.
Ms. Higgins?
Aye.
Ms. Johnson?
Aye.
Ms. Waller?
Aye.
Mrs. Beck?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Now yield the floor to Dr. Height for an introduction of governance unfinished business, item 10.1 and 10.2.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There are 2 items under governance unfinished business. These items are second readers. The first is 10.1, revised board policy number 0108. This is formally board policy number 8251, and it deals with the code of conduct.
Do we have a motion?
I move that we accept, we adopt both policies.
Okay, let's take them one at a time. Can we have a motion for one?
I move that we adopt the first one.
Do you have a second?
Code of
Second.
conduct.
Thank you. It has been properly moved and seconded that the Board of Education approves item 10.1 under unfinished business. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Thompson, call the roll.
Mr. Armwood? Aye. Mr. Barrows?
Aye.
Ms. Eubanks?
Aye.
Ms. Higgins?
Aye.
Ms. Johnson?
Aye.
Ms. Waller?
Aye.
Mrs. Beck?
Aye.
Motion carries.
We are now at the point of approving item 10.2 under governance unfinished business.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This item is revised board policy number 3140, outstanding receivables collections policy. There are some changes, some minor revisions to the policy, and just as 10.1, this is a recommendation from the policy committee.
Do we have a motion?
Make a motion that we accept item 10.2.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded that the Board of Education approves item 10.2 under unfinished business. Is there any discussion? Is that you, Ms. Johnson? Okay, Ms. Johnson?
Dr. Height, I am particularly glad to see this on our agenda, and Madam Chair, on the agenda. For several years, it has been of great concern to me about the amount of loss, damage, breakage, can't find materials, whether they are technology pieces or books, etc. And with regard to this particular one, which does not necessarily address what I think our biggest loss is, having to do with books, materials, and things that are issued at the school level, primarily by students, and the numbers of years that go by and students are just racking up massive costs. So while I'm going to approve this, I'm looking at it's primarily about the adult pieces and receivables, and with our HR and finance office doing the collection process, I really want us to have a good review of, number one, how much money is outstanding from the previous school year to 10 to 11, going back about 3 years, and how we intend to get that cost down to what is reasonable. It is huge. If people only knew these chemistry books, $75 and $80 a piece, so much money that we cannot account for, as well as other kinds of materials. It is imperative that we have an extraordinary tracking system for the books and materials that are loaned out, and an accountability for the adults who issue these materials. They also have a responsibility to assist in keeping up with what is distributed at the school level. So I look forward to how you are going to be planning through this to help lower, to eliminate this loss and damage report.
And Ms. Johnson, we're actually we're looking at both the numbers that are contained inside of what you described and a process for collecting on those outstanding balances, and I'll have Dr. Arbogast to talk more about that.
You had raised this issue before, and we'd actually pursued this and had a wonderful proposal on the table. And essentially, the problem comes down to scanning the books when they're first purchased, keeping track of those books, and then making sure that there's an accountability system. The proposal would have needed $3.2 million up front for the scanning and storage of the books. We thought that given last year's fiscal constraints, that was a really tough way to spend $3.2 million. The proposal is still on the table. We're very, very interested in trying to figure out a way to really, as you said, it really comes down to accounting for the books, knowing where they are. But I will tell you, after we spoke to this contractor, we actually sent a team out, and in the 2 high schools, we found $50,000 worth of textbooks that were lost, but in fact were not lost, were simply not accounted for in the building. So I actually think the books are there and they're not lost. We just need a tracking system that's going to work for that.
Any further comments? No, I do have one comment. At some point, principals had the authority to withhold report cards for outstanding debt.
That was the original policy, and in a previous administration, that policy was changed so that report cards were not withheld, but students who had liabilities, financial liabilities, were not allowed to participate in extracurricular activities. And that was a conscious decision by the previous administration, and that policy has not changed since.
Thank you. See no further discussion. Ms. Eubanks?
I just wanted to chime in on that. Well, it hasn't made its way to a lot of the schools because students are still being told that. So we need to make sure that it's gotten to them, because I know when my kids were still in school, they were told that, because my son lost a book, and I paid for the book so that he could get his report card. That was the old policy. Okay. I'm not sure. Yeah, okay. Good. Thank you.
Okay. It has been moved and seconded that the Board of Education approve item 10.2 under unfinished business. Hearing no further discussion, Ms. Thompson, call the roll.
Mr. Armwood? Aye. Mr. Barrows?
Aye.
Ms. Eubanks?
Aye.
Ms. Higgins?
Aye.
Ms. Johnson? Ms. Waller? Mrs. Beck?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Now yield the floor to Dr. Height for an introduction of items 11.1 and 11.2 under new business first reader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And there are 2 items under first reader. The first is the recommendation for a new board policy 3325, that is minority business enterprise goals and reporting. And item 11.2, This is a revised policy number 8372, requests for reports, staff studies.
Colleagues, we are at the point of accepting items under new business as first readers. No discussion is necessary. We have a motion to accept 11.1 and 11.2 under new business as first readers.
So moved.
Second. Been properly moved and seconded that the Board of Education accepts items 11.1 and 11.2 under new business as first readers. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Nay? Abstain? Thank you. Those have been adopted. We are now at the point of public comment on non-agenda items. We have 4 registered speakers for public comment on non-agenda items, who will speak for 3 minutes in a public comment forum where the board will listen to your comments. You must speak on the topic for which you have been registered. The board will not address your comments. At the sound of the buzzer, you may complete that sentence only. You may not relinquish any part of your speaking time to another registered or unregistered individual. You are encouraged to use titles rather than names. Please leave a copy of your statement in the file box located next to the microphone. Your adherence to these guidelines will enable the public comment process to move smoothly. Our first speaker is Bob Ross, President, NAACP, Prince George's Branch, on the 48th anniversary of the March on Washington. Not seeing Mr. Ross present. Speaker number 2, Mark Anthony Johnson, Sr., speaking as an individual supporting the PTSA.
Greetings, Prince George's County Board of Education, Superintendent, principals, parents, students, and associates. My name is Mark Anthony Johnson, Sr., a resident of the 8th Councilmember District and a 46-year resident in this county. Honorable veteran, ambassador for the unemployed and students in this county. Because I only have 3 minutes, I will use less time. When I called 301-952-6115 to register to speak, I was a little put off guard when the question was asked, what will you speak about? I replied, PTSA. The caller wanted a little more details. I thought about it and said to myself, I don't even know these Board of Education people. This is when I thought it was only appropriate to just introduce myself and provide some background information. I was able to read the biographies that was posted on the website. I have attached the following for your records, my biography, some history about some things that interest me, and my interest to work with the school system in this 2011-2012 school year. My primary goal is to reestablish the PTSA in Benjamin Starter Middle School. After reading BOE bio for Benjamin Starter Middle School, I was very excited about his biography. Retired from Verizon Communication, worked with Charles Herbert Flowers High School, PTSA, and served 2 terms as president. He was successful in building the PSA membership. Allenwood and Central High School are other schools of interest. Allenwood with the history-making board member, and Central High with a board member that has over 40 years in this county and president of the PTA, and Robert R. Gray Elementary, where she served diligently for 9 years. She at PTSA from Flowers both received Maryland State PTA Highest Award for lifetime members recipients. Due to my time, I will email all board members so we can work together for our children who deserves for us to be part of their lives. God bless you, and thank you all for allowing me to introduce myself.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Our next speaker is Tanya Wingfield, speaking on transportation for pre-K.
Good evening. My name is Tanya Wingfield. I'm the proud grandmother of a pre-K student who's attending Kingsford Elementary. My granddaughter, she loves school, she loves her teacher, and she loves her new friends. However, I'm disturbed to find out that my granddaughter will not have transportation because of a budget realignment. Today, the transportation office advised me that Kingsford Elementary, a comprehensive school which is 4 miles from my home, is not her boundary school. Instead, the system wants to assign her to H. Winship Wheatley, a dedicated special education pre-K center 8.5 miles from my home as her boundary school. I am all for inclusion, but placing general ed students into a wing, as I was told, of a dedicated special education center was not the intent of the law for inclusion. Kids at that age are impressionable. My daughter, who is my youngest daughter, when she was in the 3rd grade, was put in the same situation, and she regressed. You need to go back and do another realignment. This is not right. And my final comment, we are told at the beginning that the board will not address or make comments to us, and you should abide by your policy. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Khan, Co-Chair, Citizens for an Elected Board, the year ahead.
Good evening and welcome back. I hope everybody had a good break, because there's a lot of work to do in the year ahead, and I'm sure you're as aware of that as I am, if not more. I'd like to speak on 2 aspects. I know you've just gotten over a lengthy and difficult budget process, but as I'm sure you know, and I'm sure staff is already doing, we have to start working on the following fiscal year's budget. I'd like to see us approach it differently. I don't think that the board is quite aware of how deep the concerns are of the residents, particularly the parents in Prince George's County. White flight is pretty much over. Now we're having black middle and upper class flight, and we're fast becoming a school district that is largely people who are at or near poverty. And the budget that we have, the money, there's a feeling, and I share that feeling, that the money is misaligned. And I'd like to see us move to a zero-based budgeting system where the administration justifies to the board each line item, one by one, working up from the bottom, and put more money into classrooms, more money into equity, and find places where we can cut even more deeply, and I know cuts have been made, but even more deeply into other activities. We have got to assure that particularly our poorer families are not disadvantaged further in the education process by fees and transportation problems. We've got to get, I think, a realignment of the budget. We need to reallocate resources so that the children of this district get a greater percentage of our budget. And I know everybody is trying to work in their best interest. We have a lot of outside contracts. We have a lot of contracts or grants that we get that wind up costing us more in the long run because we have obligations at the end of them. Sometimes we have to say no to money coming in because of the future obligations we get. Let's try to avoid those things. But none of this will make any difference unless we know where we want to get. And I think people are also concerned that the schools are not looking high enough at the standards for our children.
Thank you, Mr. Khan.
I'll stop there and pick this up another time when there's not an agenda item I need to speak on. Thank you so much.
Seeing Mr. Ross, the president of the NAACP, has just arrived to speak on the anniversary of the March on Washington, 48th anniversary of the march.
Good evening. My name is Bob Ross, president of Prince George's County NAACP. As we get ready to celebrate the 48th anniversary of the March on Washington, I was sort of disappointed that the board didn't mention it here tonight, nor did Dr. Hagan. I participated in that march as a child. I was 18 years old. And I've been marching ever since then. And as we apply and look at things from the NAACP perspective. We're reorganizing here in the county. We're returning to our roots, where our friends have always been labor and will continue to be labor. 48 years ago, none of y'all would be sitting on the board if it wasn't for the NAACP. Brown versus the Board of Education, 1954, and I'm a product of that. We wouldn't have a good education system going on. So, as we get ready to celebrate 300,000 people who come into town, remember the roots and what the NAACP has done. We have always been in the forefront. We have taken uncomfortable positions. We went against the grain. And with that said, we will continue to go where we think we are right. Our education chair laid out our agenda for the upcoming year, and we're going to stand fast by that agenda. The borough said that a company don't run the county school system. It is the board that runs the county school system, and y'all need to be aware of that. So as we move forward in a harmonious way, we're not going to ridicule anybody. We're not going to call anyone liars or any of that. We're going to move ahead. The same way we approached the issue in law. We said that in law when we had an issue dealing with people couldn't register, not register to vote, but couldn't elected official with criminal records, and they want to use a background check. We sit down in less than 30 days and worked out a compromise. Everybody came to the table. But yet here we want to get into a letter writing campaign all the time. We're going to stop that letter writing campaign, and we're going to get down to business and talk sharp to each other.
Thank you. We are now at the point to confirm actions taken in executive session on Thursday, August 25th, 2011. May I have a second? It's been properly moved and seconded that the Board of Education hereby approves actions taken in executive session on August 25th, 2011 as follows. Administrative appointments, administrative transfers, personnel matters, legal matters. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Ayes have it, and the nays? The ayes have it, and actions taken in executive session on August 25th, 2011 are confirmed. Colleagues, may I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Second. It has been properly moved and seconded that the August 25th, 2011 board meeting be adjourned. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Nay. The ayes have it, and the August 25th, 2011 board meeting is adjourned at 8:27 p.m. Thank you.